Imagine, for a moment, that everything you know, your city, your home, your future, simply vanished, erased from the map, swallowed by the jungle, buried under the sand, or consumed by the sea. Sounds like a movie, right? But it's not. Today we aren't talking about fiction, but about a very real and haunting chapter of human history. We are going to resurrect the dead. Using the power of artificial intelligence, we will walk the streets of civilizations that crumbled to dust. We will see their faces, their monuments, their glory. But this isn't just a history lesson, it is a detective story. Because the real question isn't just what they looked like, but the terrifying mystery of why they are no longer here. And the answer to that question might just hold a mirror up to our own civilization. Stay with me. Our first stop is a name that echoes like a whip crack through history: Babylon. For centuries, just uttering its name conjured images of decadence, hanging gardens, and the Tower of Babel. But what was it really? Forget the Hollywood backdrops for a second. Imagine a city so advanced its walls were wide enough for a chariot pulled by 4 horses to turn around on top of them. The AI reconstructs it now, the vibrant blue-glazed bricks of the Ishtar Gate, lions and dragons gleaming under the Mesopotamian sun. You can almost hear the roar of the crowds in the processional way. It was the economic and cultural capital of the ancient world. It was, for all intents and purposes, the center of the universe. It was a city built to be eternal, and yet, today, it is a ghost, a series of ruins in modern-day Iraq. So, what went wrong? Visual pattern interrupt. Rapid montage of the AI reconstructed Babylon crumbling into dust, transitioning to a slow zoom into a map. Was it simply the ravages of time? No, Babylon's fall wasn't just a story of decay. It was a story of power. It was the victim of its own success. It was conquered by the Persians, then later by Alexander the Great, who actually wanted to make it his capital. But even Alexander couldn't stop the slow death. The Euphrates River, the very source of its life, changed its course. The intricate canals that turned the desert into a paradise went dry. The population, deprived of water and food, simply left a city abandoned not by the sword, but by thirst. A pattern, perhaps. A loop we are leaving open for now. But let's move from the cradle of civilization to the edge of the world. Perspective shift. Softer tone, more mysterious. We sail now to the far north, to a place where the icy winds of the Atlantic whip against volcanic rock. We are going to Greenland, and we are looking for a city that, for 400 years, was the westernmost outpost of European civilization. I am talking about the Norse Eastern settlement, and at its heart, a place they called Gaha. When the AI reconstructs it, it doesn't look like a frozen wasteland. We see a stately cathedral, its sandstone walls glowing in the midnight sun. We see a vast bishop's estate, raising sheep, and a society that traded ivory from walrus tusks with the great kings of Europe. These weren't just survivors. They were thriving colonists. They built stone churches that could rival those in Norway. They even had a monopoly on the trade routes. They were at the top of the world. And then, in the 15th century, they vanished. Every single one of them. The ships stopped coming, the churches fell silent, and when European explorers returned centuries later, they found only abandoned tools and rusted armor. Auditory pattern interrupt. The sound of a howling Arctic wind, overlaid with the faint distorted notes of a church bell. So, did they die? Were they killed? This is where the Zeigarnik effect kicks in, because the mystery deepens. For centuries, we thought they starved. But the AI and new archaeological data tell a different, more terrifying story. They didn't starve. The excavation of their graves shows they had plenty of food. The problem was cultural suicide. You see, the Norse in Greenland refused to adapt. They insisted on being European farmers, raising cattle and building churches. They looked down on the Inuit, who thrived by hunting seals and whales. When the Little Ice Age hit, the Norse kept trying to feed their cows with hay, while the Inuit were eating well from the sea. The Norse died because they refused to change. They chose their identity over survival. A powerful lesson, isn't it? But let's go further south, to a city that took the opposite approach, and it still wasn't enough. Visual pattern interrupt. A fade from a snow-covered Viking grave to a lush, green jungle canopy. The sound of insects and howler monkeys fills the space. Deep in the rainforests of Central America, shrouded by mist and legend, lies the phantom of the Maya world, the city of Tikal. When our AI peels back the centuries of overgrowth, it doesn't show a small village. It reveals a megalopolis, towering pyramids so steep they seemed to scratch the sky, vast plazas that could hold tens of thousands of people, and a population that rivaled ancient Rome or Athens. This was a city of geniuses. They invented the number 0, mapped the stars with terrifying accuracy, and built reservoirs to hold water for 80,000 people in a place with a 6-month dry season. It was an impossible city in an impossible location, and it worked. For 1,000 years, the thunder of their ceremonies echoed through the jungle. And then, silence. The cities were abandoned, not conquered, not sacked, just left. The jungle slowly swallowed the stones, and the Maya themselves forgot why their ancestors had built them. Pattern interrupt. The sound of a single deep drumbeat, then silence, then a whisper. ¿Por qué se fueron? Why? Why would you abandon the city your gods built? The answer was written in the mud. Core samples from the lake beds nearby reveal the culprit: drought. But it wasn't just a drought, it was a drought caused by themselves. To build their cities and to plaster their pyramids, they burned lime. To burn lime, you need wood. They deforested the jungle. When the rains failed, there were no trees to hold the moisture, no shade to keep the ground cool. The sun baked the earth, their reservoirs dried up. Tikal didn't just run out of water. They created the very conditions that killed them. They engineered their own demise. Think about that for a second. These three cities, so different. Babylon, killed by a river that moved. Garhar, killed by an unwillingness to adapt. Tikal, killed by an ecological trap of its own making. But here is the open loop we need to close. There is one city, perhaps the most famous of them all, that represents the mother of all mysteries. A city not just abandoned, but erased so completely that people doubted it ever existed. I am talking, of course, about the shimmering, legendary Atlantis. But let's leave Plato's myth for a moment and look at a real-world Atlantis. A city that met its end in a single horrifying day. High-impact pattern interrupt, fast-paced, almost frantic editing. Images of Roman frescoes, marble statues, and then a shaking camera effect. Let's go to Italy, to the Bay of Naples. It is a beautiful Roman summer day in the year 79 AD. The city is Pompeii. Our AI reconstruction shows a bustling resort town, graffiti on the walls, fast food joints on the corners, gladiators in the arena. It's a city just like ours. People are worrying about money, about love, about their reputations, and looming over them, silent for centuries, is Mount Vesuvius. They didn't even have a word for volcano. They thought it was just a mountain. At noon, it exploded. In less than 24 hours, the city was buried under 20 feet of ash and pumice. It wasn't destroyed, it was frozen in time. Visual pattern interrupt, a shift from the chaotic eruption to a serene, hyper-realistic AI image of a loaf of carbonized bread found in a Pompeian oven. The irony of Pompeii is that its death became its immortality. The ash preserved the last moments of its people, their expressions, their homes, their graffiti. We can see them. We can read their stories. We know their names, but Pompeii is the exception. For every Pompeii, there are 1,000 cities like Babylon, like Tikal, like Durhar. Cities that didn't get a dramatic burial. They just faded. And that brings us to the final loop, the one that connects them all. What do these ghosts want to tell us? We started with a promise to see the face of the dead. We have walked their streets and looked into their eyes through the lens of AI, but the real revelation isn't in the bricks and mortar. It's in the pattern. Babylon, water mismanagement. Garhar, social rigidity and failure to adapt. Tikal, environmental suicide. Pompeii, ignoring the sleeping giant in your backyard. These aren't ancient problems. These are headlines from today. We are building megacities in deserts, demanding they consume water like a rainforest. We are clinging to outdated ways of living while the climate shifts around us. We are altering our own planet in ways we don't fully understand. And just like the citizens of Pompeii, we live in the shadow of forces we choose to ignore. The cities of the past are not ruins, they are warnings. They are the ghost of Christmas yet to come, pointing a skeletal finger at our own future. The question isn't whether they existed. The question is, will we end up like them? Will future historians, or future AAs, reconstruct our cities and wonder, what were they thinking? Didn't they see the signs? The answer to that question hasn't been written yet. That pen is in your hand. Thanks for watching. This response is AI generated for reference only.